So have you wondered why it took so long for GTA 6 to be even talked about? You wonder why from GTA 5 to GTA 6 we had probably 10, 12 years? Well, we found out, and you probably heard about it, but apparently there's a leak that we had several attempts at a storyline, and all of them were debunked, all of them were stopped. And in the process, it possibly ticked off one of the founders of Rockstar. But I also want to put my own twist to this entire juicy story. But first, ladies and gentlemen, this is Raph. If you like this content, if you like what you see, what you watch, please hit that like. Consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you a penny. But if you don't like it, hit a dislike. But leave a constructive criticism as to why. Just don't say don't like and help a brother out. But let's get right into this story. So just like any other leak, we know we got to take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes, thing is, my take on a lot of these leaks is, I was just saying in Puerto Rico, right? It goes someone like wherever there's ashes, there must have been fire. So for this to start causing some flames, I mean, really, it's more than just rumors. It's more than just a unverified leak, although it hasn't been verified. Let's talk some more about it. So apparently GTA 6 chronicles of the most chaotic development in its history of Rockstar Games, is the Medium report by some person named Frevilles, I guess. I don't know. Posted, reported, it's online right now. I'll leave the link in the comment section below so you can check it out. But apparently there's several interesting info on this particular article. So in the article they said the choice to return to Vice City has been in talks, I guess, for quite a few of Rockstar's games. Vice City, actually, like I mentioned before, was probably one of my favorites in the early days. Back in 2002, I played the crap out of that game, and it was such an awesome game, fun game down in Miami, and somehow, some way they were trying to come back to it, and it quite didn't work out for many years. And so we have Don Hauser, one of the brothers who founded Rockstar, also a writer and a legend behind a lot of these great titles, had wanted to do a police plot worthy of detective story centered around 3 protagonists. So they wanted to go with the GTA 5 type of 3 different characters for you to use during the game. And so it looks here that it says protagonist number 1 was supposed to be an old Vice City policeman who reputed to be incorruptible, but who ends up gradually plunging into the organized crime in order to protect his son, who has fallen into the dangers of drug use. The protagonist 2 being the cop's son, right? So the son of the police officer, very religious Cuban American junkie, is trying to get out of his addiction and the dangers of drug traffickers. Cool. So one, and the other connection. Awesome. Protagonist number 3, the right-hand man of a Colombian drug lord who manages the importation of narcotics to the United States via Vice City. His ambition was to found his own empire in North America. So apparently Take-Two did not quite go for that one. So apparently they went on to a second scenario, second storyline, where protagonist number 1 was the police officer, daughter of a Vice City police officer who was murdered while on duty in search of a personal revenge, with the objective of infiltrating the local underworld in order to dismantle it illegally, in parallel with her duty as a police officer. That would have sounded interesting. Protagonist 2 to that story would have been an underling of a drug courier, quite crazy like Trevor from GTA 5, rising in the ranks and as the story progresses. I mean, that sounds good. I think I like the first with 3 protagonists on the first one, but this one doesn't sound bad. Apparently this one here was supposed to be somewhere around 2018, 18 months before it got canceled by Take-Two. So Take-Two gave them 2 so far, 2 strikes. So I guess they went for another reboot after that. Dan Hauser and his team were like, well, they didn't like this. Let's try this one. So the next one was the bereaved police woman was replaced by an African-American man, a former soldier released from prison and fallen into the criminal underworld. This was the 3rd version canceled by Take-Two in March of 2019. So they were not liking what Dan was cooking, what Dan was laying down, and Dan was probably frustrated. In case you guys don't know, Dan Hauser and his brother were the founders of Rockstar. Amazing game, like I told you, great franchise, great company, but they're owned by Take-Two. I guess Take-Two's the one that helped them get up to greatness, and so in a way they owe them somewhat. So Dan moved on, took a sabbatical, then decided, well, that's it for me. You guys want to hear what I'm cooking, what I'm selling. So he went and resigned back in 2020, fortunately. And after, being away for some while, we haven't heard much about him. We've heard about other games out there from other former developers like Leslie, Bensett with, what's that, Mind's Eye, and how that one's going. But looks like Dan is looking to start his own team, his own company, and that's probably going to be something good to look at, because I think a lot of the storylines from the old days came from him all the way up to GTA 5. So rejected a few times, and then after that they decided, well, we're just going to go with the whole Bonnie Clyde. So they brought in Jason Duval and Lucia Caminos. So they got the Latina with the white guy, which that's where I get my twist at. I know the storyline, you go on the website, you hear a lot of the scenarios and whatnot. But as of right now, the fourth validated scenario that Take-Two accepted was the story of Jason, a former soldier who has fallen into criminal underworld, taking up the idea of the third version, with the difference that he is not African American, but Caucasian. Caucasian is what I like to call it. And that he has not been released from prison. The other one, the woman, Lucia, a Latina American from Liberty City, and she is the one who gets out of prison. Very, very interesting. See, now that's where my twist comes into this whole thing right here, man. This is where everything to me sounds interesting, because it looks to me like we have a Fast and Furious storyline going on in here. Who is to say that she's not the daughter of a cop, right? Who is to say that Jason Duval's not a cop? So they may have mixed up some things, twisted it around, and brought up the story we got. Now, remember last year when they released the first GTA6 trailer, got everybody by surprise, by storm. When they released it, it was all about Lucia. And some guys were like, it's going to go woke. They're making the woman protagonist, blah, blah, blah. They were saying, first woman protagonist, da-da-da. Then the next one launched, and this one was more with Jason being the guy, right? And that stirred up a lot more conversation. So they know how to keep us teased for sure, no doubt. But what? On top of all this, the other rumor, the other story, the other so-called leak is that Lucia might have a son, and that son may be in Liberty City, which also makes us wonder whether it be a Liberty City map, some sort of, event where she goes back in time and thinks about that. Is Jason the father, or is the father in New York? Is this something, I don't know, maybe that the actual father of the kid is in, that's called New York, but you guys know what I'm talking about, Liberty City. Is the father in Liberty City, and, Lucia ended up locked up for some reason, protecting her family, whatever, I think is what the storyline says. And then Jason gets involved maybe to investigate. Maybe he is the cop. There's so many twists and turns here we could go with, and it's probably going to be so freaking juicy. So freaking, at this point, we'll call it conspiracy theory, really, because we don't know. This article alone right now is not quite, there's no source behind any of it, and it's also written, I think, in French, so you may have to translate like I did. Thank God for Google. But looking at it, I like the twists and turns that we're seeing, and all this other stuff that's coming down the pipeline, and it's looking good, man. It's looking good. I like it. I like this kind of stuff right here. This is the kind of stuff that makes games interesting, games fun. Storyline's important, and on top of the gameplay, all the details, everything that Rockstar is focusing on. Now, Dan is unfortunate. Dan moved on. I think that was a great talent. He probably was frustrated that they continue to shut him down, and probably frustrated the fact that he founded the company or with his brother, and they're telling him, no, you're not. Nope, we're not doing that. Nope, we're not doing that. And having to ask permission to someone else for your baby, it's kind of frustrating. I could get that, but it's gonna be a very interesting next 11, 12 months. We gotta wait till May of next year, 2026, before we find out whether or not we're gonna get GTA 6 or if it's gonna get delayed again. We don't know. It might be another switch, man. I think we switched it several times. There may be a child, storyline with a child here. Maybe Lucia and Jason have a kid. Maybe Lucia had a kid with someone else. Maybe Lucia ended up in prison for hurting that other guy. I don't know, man. There's so many twists and turns right now that I think you guys should stay tuned and let's talk more about this. Let me know what you guys think. Talk to you guys later.